engineer at Google, and you can find me on GitHub and Twitter, although I'm not really on Twitter. So don't have any speaker notes, but we'll just wing it. So the problem, let's say we've built an awesome new API, and we want everyone in the world to use it. So first step is, of course, we're probably going to create our own API client for it. And we're going to write in our favorite language, so probably Elixir for all of us first, right? But then we're going to have a new potential user or customer that's going to use a different language, like C# or Java or something else that you may not have familiarity with. So we've got a couple options for how we can approach this. We can build another client for them, or we can tell them, oh, just go build it yourself. Or maybe there's other options. At Google scale, where we've got hundreds of APIs, it's not really feasible for us to do the first one, because we have 100 APIs, 200 APIs times 30 languages. It's just too much work for us to do. And telling them to build a client is not really good business for them. So if there's a third option, where maybe we can define our APIs in a nice machine-readable way, where we can easily generate API clients, that'd be awesome. So luckily for all of us, there's OpenAPI. It's formerly known as Swagger. OpenAPI is an initiative that's backed by many big companies, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, a bunch of them. And so what is it? So it's a JSON or YAML spec. It defines requests and responses in a very defined way. And it can also optionally specify authentication. Example, I don't have time for that. So what do you get from this? Code generation. The community has provided so many different code gen options. There's a repo called Swagger API, Swagger Code Gen. So C++, Dart, Elixir, all the ones that you may not want to write API clients for yourself. There's ones out there in the community already. On the server side, you can also generate server stubs that you can fill out later, kind of as a scaffold if you really want to get started. It also generates documentation. One of the coolest things is a browsable HTML and API Explorer. And so here's an example of it, if it loads. And that one's not going to load. But it's documentation and an API Explorer inline, where you can actually test real API requests against the real server, which is pretty awesome. Oops. So how does this affect Elixir, I guess? So not many API providers actually produce Elixir libraries for us. And so it's on us to kind of generate those clients for everybody else to use. So what have I been working on? I've been working on improving the Elixir client generator for OpenAPI, and also converting Google API, our internal API spec, into OpenAPI, and then generating the API clients for it. So as of yesterday, I've published 22 APIs for Google Cloud APIs of our 100+ actual APIs, all with 250-something unique versions. And hopefully within the next 2 weeks, they'll all be available to use. So you can use any Google Cloud API, just any API that Google has in Elixir. Super easy. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got.